Hey everyone, welcome to another Tower of Saviors video. In this video, I'll be talking about the 7th anniversary Choose Your All Max reward. I will first go over how the reward works, and then I'll go over the card pool and give you my opinion on the cards that are available for you to choose. In case this is your first time receiving a reward like this is how it works. When you first redeem the reward, you will be asked to select one race and one attribute. The system will then choose 5 characters that you have never owned and display them for you. Next, you'll select the monster that you want and you will get an all-max copy of that card. Before making your selection though, there are some things that you should be careful about. First, once you select the race and attribute, your selection is locked and you won't be able to change it. So make sure you know which card you want before you redeem the reward. Another thing that you should take note of is that all the cards in this card pool are in their final evolution. Even if you have a card's pre-evolution, if you don't have the actual card, the system will think you've never owned it before. Lastly, if there are more than 5 cards that you don't own in the specific card pool, the system will choose the 5 cards at random. This means that there is a chance that the card that you want might not be in the selection pool. For that reason, I recommend choosing a race and an attribute combination that will give you a guaranteed chance at the card that you want. For example, Fire Dragons only have 4 cards, so you are guaranteed your choice if you select this combination. On the other hand, Fire Gods have many options, so it's likely that the system will choose at random for you and you might not get the card that you want. But if there are less than 5 cards that you don't own in that card pool, you can be confident that you will get the card that you want, so go ahead and choose that combination. One last thing before I move to the card pool review is that this reward will be able to be redeemed up until May 31st. This means that you can wait and see what other cards get released and choose a member accordingly. Maybe you can get a member for the new Black Gold card that's coming out next week, or for any other collaborations that are coming up in the next few months. Either way, whenever you decide to redeem this reward, it will be a great chance to expand your monster inventory. I will start by giving you my opinion on the best characters that you could get from this reward, and then I will review the attributes one by one. I want to note that the usefulness of the characters might vary depending on which leaders and which monsters you have in your inventory. As such, take this with a grain of salt and make a selection based on the cards that might benefit your inventory the most. Without further ado, let's begin. Let's begin with Diamond. Diamond is one of my top picks because it is one of the few viable elf leaders and it also has a really good active skill. If you don't currently have a good elf leader, this could be a really good choice. And plus, once it gets power crept out of the meta, it still has a really good active skill that can be used by many members as well. This means you'll get utility out of this card for years to come, even if the leader skill falls out of the meta. My next recommendation will be the Supreme Reckoning version of Daji. Her double active skills with a time tunnel and a burst skill make her really flexible to add into any elf team or dark team. She can also help you dodge the first enemy attack as well as enchant the entire board, so having her as a member will be really good. Speaking of Daji, any Supreme Reckoning monster will be a good choice if you don't have a clear idea on which card you want. This includes Supreme Reckoning Chinese gods like Ao Guang, Neza, Bull King, Wukong, and Daji, and Supreme Reckoning Norse monsters like Freyr, Tyr, Freya, Thor, and Loki. I suggest this because the card given to you will be an all-max final evolution version, which means that you will be able to save on the materials required for Supreme Reckoning, which is very resource heavy. Moving on, the next card I want to talk about is Bahamut. This card is a really powerful dragon member and it's the only dragon that can release locked skills. However, this card is only good for dragon teams, so only consider it if you have a good dragon leader like Qingque. The next card on my list is the Demon Groth. As a leader, he has already fallen out of the meta, but his active skill is really OP. City 10 is a little bit longer than most skills, but this is the only skill that can consistently get you over 30 combos in one round. This means the skill is a really good burst option and it can also counter combo shields easily. If you're playing with demons or fire leaders, I think this would be a good addition for your team. The last card I want to talk about before we move on is Mellow. Even though she's not being used as much, she still has a really OP active skill. With her skill, you can indefinitely stall an enemy by dodging all of their attacks. She fits well into a beast team as well as any dark team. You can consider picking her up if you drew Veronica from the latest patch or if you got Ingzen from the Black Gold Seal card draw. For now, these are my top picks, but as I mentioned before, the best card will be the card that fits into your inventory the best. Now, I will go attribute by attribute and give you my opinions on which cards might be good to use this unique reward on. Let's begin by reviewing the fire attribute card pool. Of all the cards present here, these are the ones that I think are the most useful. For fire humans, the only two notable cards are Medea and Neza. Medea is a good booster card that can fit many teams to increase your damage output, while Neza has double active skills and can also be used as a leader for a fast farming team on easier levels. In terms of fire gods, I put Tyr in because you can save on Supreme Reckoning materials. There's also Poppy for her control skill that delays enemies for 5 rounds. Uriel has double active skills that can also be used to break defenses. Next we have Brahma. Brahma has fallen out of the meta as a leader, but his active skill is still really good. He can increase your rune movement time as well as increase your combo count, which makes this a really good burst option. Then we have Agni, which is a time tunnel card that can last through multiple rounds, and if you're running a mono-god team, his skill will be ready from the beginning of the battle. The last fire god that I recommend is Chesia. Chesia has fallen out of the meta as a leader, but her skill generates enchanted water, fire, and earth runes, which can counter a common enemy shield that you might encounter. Moving on to fire demon members, we have Groth and Eve. We already talked about Groth, so let's focus on Eve now. Eve is one of the few viable demon members other than Yinzhen that are still good in the current meta. However, as a member, she is a little bit lacking as her active skills don't work well outside of her own team. You can consider picking her up if you don't have Yinzhen or any viable demon leader. However, I have a feeling that she will be power crept out of the meta very soon. Next, we have Bifang, the Fire Beast. This card is one of the only cards that can counter initial shields. I wouldn't recommend choosing this card, and I would say choose something more useful for your all max reward, but if you're running out of ideas, this could be a good choice. We already talked about Bahamut, so let's move on to Fire Elves. Clara can generate heart runes as well as boost your recovery, but in terms of utility, I think that the Mineral series has more utility than her. Meanwhile, Amber is a really good leader if you're into hardcore grind teams or meme teams. Her active skill is a fixed board convert, which makes spinning easier and can be paired up with another burst skill to dish out a big amount of damage. Those are my thoughts on the fire attribute members, so let's move over to the water attribute. For the water cards, these are the members that I think could be good picks for this all max reward. Starting with water humans, we have Cassandra, which is a booster card that can increase your damage output and you can feed her in many teams. Next we have Floris, which is one of the most useful human utility cards. She has a self-attack multiplier that can serve as a good burst option, and she can also clear effects on the board such as enemy debuffs. Moving on, we have the recently power released Guan Yu. Her leader skill is a little bit RNG, but if you don't have access to Arya, she is a good leader to have as a substitute. For the last water member, we have Marie Curie. If you miss the King of Fire seals, she is the only card that can release the locked active skills of water members. So if you're missing out on this kind of utility, you can consider getting her for your all max reward. Moving on to the water gods, we have Freyr. Freyr is a good leader, and you can also save on the Supreme Reckoning materials if you choose him as your reward. Next, we have Raphael, who has double active skills, and one of them is a time tunnel, which is always useful to have. Next, we have Abraham, which is one of the viable water gods in the meta right now, but in my opinion, his skill is a little bit RNG, and I wouldn't be surprised if he falls out of the meta very soon. In terms of water demons, I think Yukiona could be a good choice, especially after you awaken recall her. After awakening recall, her active skill gains a burst option, and if you put her in an Inzen team, she can help you counter enemies that are immune to dark attacks. For water dragons, we have Ao Guang. Ao Guang has dual skills, one of them which explodes all the runes on board, and this can counter different board hazards. He also has really high HP, which can help boost your overall team HP. I also listed Ursula because she can help you in a Qingque team to increase your damage output by sharing Qingque's attack with all of the other members. In terms of water elves, I listed the members that can kinda be useful, but they aren't super top picks for me. Ginny can help you break defense, Pupuro has a self-attack times 20 multiplier, Andromeda I feel like she might get a power release soon, and Cornflower can explode runes and also increase your combo count. Lastly, we have Einstein, the water machina. In my opinion, I like Einstein as a machina leader, but he was overshadowed by the Hatsune Miku collaboration. He has good damage reduction as well as a good guaranteed skydrop mechanic. If you skip the Hatsune Miku collaboration, you could consider picking up Einstein as your machina leader. That will be all for the water members, so let's move over to the earth attribute cards. These are the cards that I think you could consider picking up for this attribute. Starting with Earth Humans, we have Circe. She's a general booster card that can increase your damage output. I also listed Liu Bei because his active skill was reduced from CD8 to CD5, and now he can dissolve water, fire, and earth runes in groups of 2. Additionally, he can launch 10 light attacks, and at CD5, this skill is really fast. Plus, you can save on the power release materials if you choose him as your all-max reward. Moving on to Earth Gods, we have Freya. Freya is a Supreme Reckoning Norse god, which means that you can save on the Supreme Reckoning materials if you choose her. We also have Sagittarius, who can help your team launch extra fire attacks and bypass some annoying shields. Next we have Sariel, who has double active skills, and one of them can help you clear enemy debuffs. And then we have Parvati, who is a general booster card that can be activated from the beginning of the stage if you're running a mono god team. Lastly, we have Huifer. I use her a lot to clear trio enchanted elemental shields, but I would only consider getting her if you're running out of ideas. Moving on to Earth Demons, we have Tengu. Tengu can help delay your enemies, which is always a good skill to have. Next we have Samle, who is a really good addition to a mono demon team because his team skill increases your HP by 1.5. If you drew Inzen, this is a great addition to your team. Next we have the Earth Beasts, starting with SR Bolking. He has double active skills, a convert and a burst option, and then you can also save on the SR materials if you choose him. I also recommend getting Ghosty because she has a single dissolve skill that can help you clear the entire board and bypass high combo shields. Her cooldown is a little bit long, but I still think that this skill is pretty OP. And lastly, I have Wimpy, which is one of the members that can release the lock skills of Beast and Machina members. Moving on to Earth Elves, we have Matryoshka. I always see YouTubers put her in when they need the extra recovery, so if you need this, you can consider picking her up as well. Next we have Jade, who can be used as a really good leader, but her real talent lies on being a member. She is a really good booster card and can increase your elf attack to really high levels. In the current meta, she fits best in a diamond team. For Earth Machinas, I have Fee and Darwin. Fee is a really good card that can help you restore HP on a Machina team, while Darwin is a really good burst option that can also help you explode the entire board. However, I would only recommend these two cards if you have a really good Machina leader. Otherwise, I would suggest you use your reward for other members. That's all for the Earth attribute card pool. So let's move on to the light attribute one. For this attribute, these are the cards that I think that are worth picking for this all max reward. Starting with light humans, we have Huangzong and Morse. Huangzong has a team skill that can give you a 1.2 increase in your HP if you're running a mono light human team. I also looked at the black gold card that just came out, and it looks like you can also opt to run a mono light human team. In this case, you can add Huangzong to increase your HP to insane amounts. In the case of Morse, he has a time tunnel skill that is always good to have in your team. Moving on to Light Gods, we have SR Thor and SR Wukong. If you pick them, you can save on the SR materials. SR Thor is a really good leader, but there's nothing more to say about him. However, SR Wukong has two active skills. One is a really good convert, and the other one is a really amazing defense break skill. Next we have Luna, who is one of my most used cards in God teams. Her skill makes every monster's attack the same as the highest attack in your team, and this lasts for 2 rounds. Additionally, if you awaken recall her, she increases your rune movement time by 1 second. Lastly, we have Lakshmi. Lakshmi is a good booster card and can also be activated from the beginning of the stage if you're running a mono god team. For light demons, I only listed Wu Zetian. As a leader, I really only use her in easy stages for fast clearing, since I can just do one combo and dish out pretty good damage. Her active skill also has a lot of utility. She can help you explode runes, increase your rune movement time, and give demon and light members a chance to launch extra 5 attacks. Looking at this, I think she's a really good addition for the new Black Gold card. Moving on, we have Light Beasts, starting with Behemoth. Behemoth is a okay card in my opinion, but I listed it here because it's really hard to get through normal means. Next we have Zero, which is one of the 2 Beast Time Tunnel cards, the other one being Orochi from the Ultraman series, which you can't get anymore. Next we have Copper Bullet in the Light Dragon category. His skill lets you dodge attacks including those that are 100% HP reduction. Additionally, he can also help you enchant the entire board if you need to clear enchanted Quintet Elemental Shields. And lastly, we have Diamond, who we already covered before. But to recap, he is a really good leader and has a really good active skill, so I would recommend getting him if you don't have him yet. That's all for the light attribute members, so let's move on to our last attribute, the dark attribute. Here are the cards that I consider worth picking for the all max reward. First we have Nicole, who is a really situational card. For 2 rounds, she will convert the board to whatever configuration you had when you activated the skill. This pairs really nicely with fixed board converts, because this means that you get 3 rounds of that specific fixed board. Moving on to Dark Gods, we have SR Loki, who is a good member and can help you save on Supreme Reckoning materials. I also put Gemini here because after Awakening Recall, he gets a persistent attack boost to the max of times 6. This passive can pair really nicely with Luna if you have her. Next, I have Cancer. Cancer is one of the few cards that can counter initial shields, so it's always good to have him. The last god that I listed is Lu Dongbing. He has a targeted convert, which is really useful when you need to get rid of a specific runestone attribute. Next, we have the Dark Demons, starting with Tsuchigumo. After Awakening Recall, Tsuchigumo can be activated from the beginning of the stage, which means that it's really useful if you need high attack power from the start. I also recommend getting the newly power released Zhuge Liang. She can help you increase your combo count by 8 and also potentially help you deal with enchanted Quintet Elemental Shields. Next, we have Lancelot, whose active skill allows him to increase his own attack to the max of times 4. I always include him in my Inzen team for that extra attack. However, he doesn't have that many more uses, so you might consider other cards if you need them. The last demon I have is Satan. I would consider only getting this card if you don't have access to Inzen. In my opinion, she is a good leader, but she is overshadowed by the Black Gold card. Plus, she might get power creep soon, but her active skill allows you to get rid of weathered and frozen runes, so that's always a good thing. Next we have Mello, who we already covered before, so let's move on to our Dark Dragon members. First, we have Novalis. In my opinion, Novalis has a pretty good skill. However, other than Azathoth, there aren't many other viable leaders that can use him. I would only consider getting this card if you really have no other ideas, or if you want to bet that we get a dragon leader soon. However, given that we got Qingque recently, this might be a while before they release a new dragon leader. Next, we have Azathoth. Azathoth was a really good leader, but he has been power crept out of the meta. His active skill explodes the entire board and generates runes below dragon members, which means he is a really good addition for a Qingque team. You can consider picking him up if you don't have any good dragon leaders, or you can bet that he will get power released. However, by the time this happens, we might have another all-max reward. Next we have Dark Elves, starting with Daji. We already talked about her, so just to recap, her dual active skills are really good. She has a time tunnel, an attack dodge, she can enchant the entire board, and she can also burst down your enemies. Next, we have Obsidian. She can help you release the lock skills as well as increase your combo count. She is the only good elf card that can release your lock skills, so consider getting her if you don't have this utility. Lastly, we have the Dark Machina, and we have Galileo. Galileo can release the lock skills of your members. The only other Machina card that can do this is a Hatsune Miku collaboration card, so if you miss the collaboration, this is the only option for you to get this utility. Moreover, you can also get 3 rounds of attack and recovery boost from Galileo. With this, we have finished the card review for all the 5 attributes. Before I go, I have some tips and tricks for you. First, I recommend you getting the reward a few weeks before the reward expires. This will give you enough time to think and consider which card you want to get. Additionally, more cards will be released, so this means that you can use that chance to get members for those series instead. My second tip is to choose a member rather than a leader. Leaders will always get power crept, however, member utilities will always be good to have. Lastly, you want to make sure that the card that you want is in a card pool that has 5 or less members that you have never owned. The last thing you want to happen is that you choose your race and attribute and then you don't see the card that you want. So make sure you have a guaranteed shot at the card you want before making your selection. This all max reward is a rare chance that is only given to us every once a year, so make sure you think carefully and you don't regret your decisions. That's all I had for this video. If you have any questions or comments, or if I missed anything, please let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for sticking around for such a long video. Stay tuned on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel for more Tower of Saviors content. Take care, and I will see you next time. Bye!